If He Will Not Eat by Kit Mazarin. Read by Kit Mazarin and Jan Gedroich.
When my little brother was young, he could still eat cooked food. He was a curious little thing. My father, the king, would waste no time or money to educate him, claiming that there was no intelligence behind his eyes, that he was no better than a beast. But I was not looking at my brother through the eyes of an adult. My main interests as a child were eating and playing, and since my brother could do both, in his own fashion, I thought for a long time that we were the same, or that the differences between us were the normal distance one measures between any two individuals that walk the earth. On hot summer evenings, we would lie on the marble floor of the palace courtyard, and I'd cut up smoked sausages for us to eat as we lounged around, never speaking a word. He never learnt, not to speak or sing or respond to language. I didn't mind. I didn't care for what little boys had to say. There was nothing I wanted to communicate to him that couldn't be achieved with a whistle, a glare, or a forceful shove in the right direction. I never called his name to get his attention. I grabbed him by the collar and dragged him around with me. Whether he knew his name or mine was of no consequence, as long as he kept me company. The evening that our relationship changed is set in my mind like a crystal. Every so often, when I least expect it, it will tumble free across my thoughts, clinking against others, sharp and clear. We lie on the cold stone. My brother is half asleep, his breaths slow. His cloven feet twitch now and then. Every time he shifts, the horns curling from his head scrape against the marble, producing a high-pitched scratch that disturbs him and furrows his brow until he is still and peaceful again. I lie there beside him, slow and stupid, tapping little rhythms out on the paving slabs, my fingertips growing numb and cold. I imagine that I am pinned to the stone, that the dark sky stretches away beneath me, that the stars are far, far below and I am falling. My skin prickles, and my fingernails dig into the cracks between stone as if it will make a difference, clinging. I lie there until I am numb all over, until my brother wakes and the sun is cresting over the horizon and the stars fade. I finally fall asleep bathed in the sun's warm rays. When I wake again, stiff-limbed, at the urging of a servant, my brother is gone from my side. At the time, I think nothing of it. The next day, and the next, and the day after, my brother is nowhere to be found. My mother comes to tuck me into bed, refusing to hear my questions. She is fragrant from a hot bath, anointed with various floral oils, her breath sweet. It pairs oddly with the strain in her eyes. A fresh cut mars her cheek. The next day my mother relents, or perhaps she just stops having the energy to waylay me. I accompany her to the stables. The horses we pass toss their heads and knock their hooves against the stable doors as if possessed. As we pass my father's prize horse, I notice its eyes rolling and take care to walk as far from it as possible. My mother takes no heed, only marches to the far side of the stables, to a locked door. She keeps threading her fingers through her hair, yanking at the ends. She paces to and fro before the barred door. Every so often, she thinks of a different food and yells it to a servant, who fetches it in a fright. As the day wears on, my mother loses color, and the servants redden as they run back and forth, scrambling to fetch anything her mind can conjure up. Part of me admires the way she can scatter so many people at will, even at her most unreasonable, her eyes bloodshot, her words like harsh cracks. New foods are passed through the heavy iron-set door. After a while, the plate is retrieved. Each time, it is uneaten. Finally, my mother exhausts herself enough that I dare creep closer as a servant heaves open the door to retrieve a plate that still holds a leg of raw, pink, fresh lamb. When my mother sees the plate, she snatches it from him in a rage and throws it across the courtyard. The plate shatters. A dog descends on the meat. I peer through the crack in the doorway, catching a glimpse inside before it's bolted shut once more. The bright sun makes it difficult for my eyes to adjust to the unlit room. But for a moment, I see him. lying on the ground, cushioned on a loose bed of straw. He is so unnaturally still. A waft of air passes over my head, fetid enough that I shrink away. I scream. I scream and yell for him to come and play with me, until my mother grabs me by the shoulders and shakes me, hard, until I fall silent in shock. She releases me and goes back to her relentless pacing. Normally, I would burst into tears, but instead I feel odd and uncomfortable and somehow worried for everyone else. My brother most of all. No one answers my questions. The sun drops from the sky. My mother forces me to bed and goes for her customary bath, and I wonder how long my brother has been locked in that room, and what he did to deserve it. The next morning I slip to the stables as early as possible, but my mother is already there, so there is no chance of freeing my brother in solitude. Instead, we establish a routine out of our strained vigil. My brother is served a sample of every food available to a queen. Staples local and cheap enough for servants to subsist on, and delicacies even I have only tasted once. Everything is suddenly equal because he will eat none of it. Each passing day, my mother transforms, becoming more shrill, acting either beside herself when she has the energy, or lapsing into dull silence. My father never appears. It's impossible to ask my brother what he would like to eat. My mother works on a trial and error basis. If he ate only rare pearls, she would have dived into the ocean for every pearl it had to offer, just to see it dissolve on his tongue. He is hungry, and she withers along with him. I always thought I was the closest to my brother, by virtue of the time we spent lazing around like lion cubs in the sun. But watching my mother sob in frustration when he refuses to eat, I realize that I merely like him in the selfish way a child likes a companion. She truly loves him, so much that I am beset with fits of rage and jealousy to try to win back her attention. Nothing will take her away from that guarded door. I screech at her, shameless, running my throat ragged. She turns to me, flint in her eyes, and raises her hand. Her momentum is interrupted by a sound from the other side of the door. She freezes. I scream again in frustration and throw myself on the ground. In answer, a low roar rumbles under the door. My brother, who never made a sound, weaker than he's ever been, answers my cries. The roar doesn't sound like it comes from a human throat. I'm confused into silence. My mother stares at me. I curl into an apologetic ball, shame finally catching up to me, but she's 10 steps ahead. She beckons for me with that same hand, eyes begging. After a dumbstruck moment, at her bequest, I scream again, my heart pounding. In answer, my brother lets out a beastly roar, rattling my bones and the ground beneath me. In the terror, I find relief, my whole body trembling. I scream and cry, and my brother roars back. The recognition is warmer than the rays of the sun. To my surprise, my mother joins in. I jump in fright, but her cheeks are glowing with life. When a roar answers her, she weeps. That drives me into a kind of madness I don't fully grasp. In a frenzy, I jump around the door, snarl and prance as if my brother can see my whole performance, and my mother bangs her hands on the door, and we are dizzy, deranged. Servants scuttle away, make themselves scarce. Do they think we are turning into something else, like him? I don't care. He rattles the ground, the air is pierced with our shrieks, and my whole body dances in response. When I think back to him that day, called for until night by his mother and his sister, my heart aches so much I can hardly stand it. There were no questions except whether he would answer and hear how intensely I missed him, how madly our mother wished for him. In our shared frenzy and fury, we were one. It was jealousy, then, that made me save him, so that everyone would stop looking at him and ignoring me. It couldn't have been love. I tell myself this like a mantra. It must have been a cruel, selfish act. How else could it have had such unspeakable consequences? I am watching the cat when the idea comes to me, so perhaps I can blame it on the cat. The cat chases a mouse, but I intercept it, landing heavy on my belly, arms outstretched. slamming a bowl over the prey. When I flip the bowl, I hear the skitter of tiny claws on the metal. I don't let myself think about it. I dash as fast as my feet can carry me. All anyone sees is a whirl of hair and a bowl glowing with sunlight in my hands. My mother keeps her vigil by the door, drowsy in the afternoon heat. I sit by her until the guards grow bored of me and make their own conversation around the perimeter of the stables, speaking of things that would bore me to tears, like squabbles in their marriages. Once they're far enough, I slip, barefoot, to the door. I lift the heavy iron bolt and, with all my strength, pull the door open just wide enough to slip inside. The smell has gotten worse. I gag, almost dropping the bowl. My brother sits in the middle of the floor. He doesn't merely smell like an unwashed body. He stinks of death. Although it has only been weeks or months since I last saw him, he seems different. He is gaunt, of course, but there is something else. When faced with streaming sunlight, he shuffles back and lowers his head, as if to impale the sun with his horns. His breaths puff out. His spine sticks out grotesquely, his teeth elongated. He slowly stands to his full height, unfurling, and my stomach drops. His fine linens are torn and stained. Though weakened with hunger, he is able to loom over me. I search him for a resemblance to my little brother and come up short. Does my mother know what he looks like? I can't imagine grabbing him by the scruff of his neck. He watches me strangely, as if he can see me. This is unnerving, because my brother never looks at anyone. It's part of his way, staying silent and close by. This kind of raw focus puts me on edge, though I can't explain why it's so eerie. Feeling foolish, I tip the bowl out. The mouse flies across the straw like a stone from a slingshot. But my brother is faster. The crunch of bone echoes, and then a great swallow. Then silence. It's too much. My nerve breaks. I leap from the room, leaning my whole weight against the door. The iron bar falls closed, almost crushing my hands before I snatch them away. A moment later, the whole door shakes. I stumble back. The hinges tremble. My mother wakes, confused. Although the sun is high, I feel as if I am encased in ice. I have found what he can eat. Live prey. My reward for saving my brother's life is not being allowed to see him anymore. My father orders a labyrinth to be built beneath our palace. For months I can't sleep for the sounds of digging. Each day, my mother leaves the throne room, red-eyed. When the labyrinth is built, my father takes me by the hand and shows me the vast construction. He lets me hold the spool of thread that prevents us from getting lost. I wonder if this indulgence is somehow tied to my mother's absence. He is keen to show me how large the labyrinth is, the ingenious ventilation and water distribution systems. Our footsteps echo and multiply through the caverns, making me shudder with the constant fear of discovering others down here in the darkness. No one tells me when my brother is moved, but one day the stables are empty, the horses are calm, and the entrance to the labyrinth is locked. I pace the courtyard, to and fro. A tremor interrupts my steps. I hesitate and then resume my anxious vigil. The earth trembles once more. I gently kneel and press my palms to the hot stone. He's somewhere down there, in our foundations. He follows my footsteps when I pace the courtyard each day. The marble tiles tremble beneath me, and when I stand still, the earth below ceases its rumbling. I imagine him, 1 foot raised in the darkness, waiting for me to guide him around as usual. These crumbs are enough for me until the earth stops trembling. This is how I learn that he is being starved. My father has given him a suite the size of a palace, but not even a single rat has been allowed to pass the threshold. No one will listen to my pleas. My mother tells me it is all for the best. On the last day of summer, one of our boats returns, filled with youths from the neighboring island kingdom. They are not here for trade or diplomacy. They are bound by the hands and paraded before our guards. I am not allowed to speak to them. The next day they are gone, though the ship remains in the dock. The trembling beneath the courtyard, a sensation not felt for months, returns. My mother is absent from meals, but my father glows with victory. It is he who exalts how quickly my brother dispatched all those sacrifices. I dare to ask the king if this means that my brother has bought back his freedom, if he has paid his dues, if he will be allowed out of the castle walls to hunt wolves or some such. My father merely looks perplexed and chides me on economics. The labyrinth was expensive, after all. If I want to free him, surely my father should be compensated for the cost. He laughs at my shock. I don't point out that the master craftsman who designed the labyrinth is a prisoner on our island, kept against his will. The king is not concerned that his own son may have sustained injuries during the night, even though the sacrifices were all older than him. He isn't worried that with a full stomach my brother might even have a conscience about his actions. No. He merely swills his wine and leisurely tells me that the next time he feeds my brother, and by this he means with sacrifices, will be in 9 years. That night, I sneak into the master craftsman's quarters and beg and plead for a way to free my brother. He will tell me nothing, only insists that my brother is strong enough now to survive a 9-year fast, that he heals at an unnatural pace, that he has become stronger than many men. I spy his own son, a mere toddler, playing with ingenious little toys his father has invented. This child is nothing like my brother. He is blue-eyed and chubby-cheeked and round as a button, but I still use him to cudgel his father's paternal sensibilities. The craftsman's son is a prisoner, too, but he is kept safe and warm in the arms of his family. My brother has no one. Finally, the craftsman relents, telling me of a secret door. It turns out he rather exaggerates, because it's more of a small hatch, and one I can only go to during narrow windows in the day due to the schedule of our guards. Nonetheless, I am grateful for it. I use it to drop offerings of my own into the labyrinth. Chickens, goats, lambs, a sick foal. My brother learns the routine. I never dare to bring a light with me, so the only sign of him I have on my butcher's errands are the rustlings beneath and the tear of flesh. I whisper to him, sing him songs, tell him how I miss him. As the years pass, I sometimes lose my nerve and cry over the hatch, terrified that he no longer knows me, that even as I keep him fed, I am somehow raising the monster, and not the boy. I don't breathe a word of it to my mother, and swear my maids to secrecy. My brother doesn't have the king's blood in his veins. Instead, he has the blood of the snow-white bull my father was too greedy to sacrifice to the gods. It's my father's punishment, and my father's fault, that he is a Minotaur, half man and half beast. The gods drag us around on their canvas of fate, until our bristles fall out and our blood cools, and we can't paint their stories anymore. My father never seems to run out of ink. The gods punish his mistakes, to be sure, but for some reason they also miraculously let him survive them, crown intact. What mistake will he make next? How will we bear the next punishment? Every year that passes brings us closer to my brother's next feast. It haunts me. I worry about him so much that I pay little attention to my father, thinking that my brother's condition is the worst thing he could ever do to my family. That assumption is undone the day he makes a terrible wish. He prays to the gods for more riches, and they listen to him. At the evening feast, he demonstrates how everything he touches now turns to gold, but I can see the sweat on his brow as the loaves and wine turn solid and heavy in his grip. Even the sweat glistens and hardens, and pearls off him, clattering away, making him jump. I pick one up from the table out of curiosity, and he pushes at my hand, irritated that I am drawing attention to it. Under his tight grip, my hand glistens and hardens. I can't stretch my fingers. My limb, now useless solid gold, won't follow my commands. He lets me go, but the heavy glimmer spreads over my body regardless. None seated in the hall dare approach me. I struggle away from the table, turning to beseech my mother. As her hands cut my cheeks, my vision fades. I can hear her crying for help, and then I hear nothing at all. As a golden statue, I know nothing and feel nothing. My heart no longer beats. My lungs can't intake air. They leave me in the hall, under guard, ostensibly so that soothsayers can attempt to heal me, but also perhaps because I've become more valuable as a symbol of the king's connection to the gods than I ever was as a daughter. After 3 days, when my father approaches death's door, the gods tell him of a way to break the curse they gifted him. They tell him to go to the river and let it wash away his curse. It is my mother's command that sees me disinterred from the great hall and lowered into the river next to my father, who greedily gulps from the fresh mountain stream. I come back to my senses in the midst of the terrible pain of transformation. My father, chest deep in the water, cradles me gently. The riverbed glitters under his feet. He weeps and holds me as he never has before. But I am watching the gold curse dissipate, screaming, begging. No one understands me. My limbs return to their original state, and despair fills my heart. With a golden limb, I could have repaid my father for the construction of the labyrinth. I could have bought my brother's freedom. After 9 years, a new crop of sacrifices arrive in the cells. My father gloats because one of them is a prince. I see my chance to change things, and it terrifies me, but I know that if I don't take it, I will have 9 years to regret it. In my quarters, I order the maids out, sit on the ground, and pour out goblet after goblet of wine. I pray not for the protective, familial arms of Hera or Hestia, because what I will do defies my father. Instead, I call upon the bloodthirsty courage of Bacchus, the god of wine. I drink every single cup down to the last drop, until it feels like there is more wine in me than blood. Perhaps it is the drink, but a vision of Bacchus, insubstantial as smoke, appears across from me, cross-legged like a pier. He wears reeds and tanned hides, held together by curling tendrils and vines, and his arms are soaked in blood that drips over the stone floor, or perhaps it is only the tipped-over cups, spilling wine. The misty vision lifts his bright-eyed face and straightens one of the fallen goblets. It refills with wine, the liquid bubbling up. I watch, hypnotized. He smiles, the way I smile when cats chase simple ribbons across the floor.
Are you drinking all of your offerings to me? Now, I could take that as an insult.
These aren't the offerings. Tonight I'll spill blood on your behalf. But to do it, I need courage.
If you ask for courage from me, I hope it's for a terrible decision.
The worst I can make.
Is that so? Well, then I won't let your cup run empty.
His laughing form dissolves into nothing as I walk through him. The labyrinth is too heavily guarded for me to access, but the prison is more easily breached for one who knows how to distract the guards. The would-be sacrifices lurch to their feet when the door opens, only to gape at me in horror when I lock it shut behind me. My most trusted maid takes the key from my palm and disappears into the night. One of them grabs my arm. It is the prince himself. He is mollified when I give him the thread needed to navigate the labyrinth. These youths have been brought here to die at my brother's claws, but I beg them to spare him as coherently as I can manage. In my fist, I clutch a sleeping draught, enough to sedate a horse, and hopefully enough to sedate a Minotaur. Once he passes out, we can leave the labyrinth with him, steal a ship, and sail to freedom. The wine slurs my words, and some of the sacrifices exchange looks, unconvinced. The prince, however, lauds my courage, wrapping a comforting arm around my shoulders, subtly helping me to stand. As a prince, he must understand how difficult it is for me to put myself in with them, to betray my own family. He even offers to marry me in his kingdom, should we reach it. I fervently hope that given all the mistakes the gods have let my father make, that they grant me just this one. At midnight, the celebrations begin. The sacrifices are forced into the labyrinth. They are each given a sharpened stick, perhaps to prevent them twiddling their thumbs as they die. They crowd together to mask my presence. Has my mother noticed yet that I am not seated at the feast? Maybe. Maybe she is not there herself. The tunnels smell different 9 years on, awful and stinking and fetid. The bones of the past set of tributes crumble under our feet. I hear the same trickling water. Our footsteps echo the same way. As I step over the filthy floor, my skin erupts in gooseflesh. A couple of the tributes scatter, too terrified to stay with their prince. The prince rallies the others, the thread unspooling in his hands. It doesn't take long for my brother to appear, a hulking, shivering form. Liquid courage dissolves my great terror. He raises himself to his full looming height, an intimidating gesture, offered perhaps as a warning. I break away from the quaking youths and approach him, singing the lullabies of our childhood. I raise my hand towards him, offering him the sleeping draught. He charges at me, mad with bloodlust, closing the distance in a heartbeat. His sharp teeth close like a sprung trap. My arm wobbles and splinters and breaks away from my body. I hammer my fist against anything I can reach. The pain pierces through my haze. My brother slurps blood, chews through fat with relish. For a terrifying minute, I think I didn't steal enough of the sleeping draught. But then, finally, he kneels and then slumps to the floor. I clutch my side, unable to take in enough air to scream. The prince is well trained. He sees a split second of opportunity and takes his chance. With a vicious roar, he skewers my brother in the side. I roar with horror. The prince's accomplices grab my brother, who is powerless to resist. The stick juts from his side. The prince hoists me up in his strong grip. I try to hit him, but I am incoherent with pain. The night air spills over my face. I know he has taken me aboard a ship when the ground lurches under my feet and the sounds of the crashing waves surround me. Once they have escaped the harbor, they hold me down to attend my wound. The prince stares in disbelief at my severed stump. I should have bled out, but instead, not a single drop of blood has fallen from the wound. I keep touching it, imagining in my feverish delirium that the curse has returned, that I can't feel it because it is hard and cold metal. My mind is fractured between past and present. My brother is just born. My brother is barely cold. I can't hold him. When did I last get to hold him? I don't know for certain where my brother is. Did I help the tributes to kill him? Did they leave him in the labyrinth? I have to believe a painless, sleeping death is better than being trapped forever in the king's cycle of isolation and murder. When the first rays of pink light touch the ship, the prince arranges an audience with me, but he has to work hard to shout louder than I can. He had promised to marry me, but now his eyes trail over the shock of my lost limb, the blood on my dress, the alcohol on my breath, and the tears and snot oozing over my face. I am not the sculpture he sought to display in his hall. They don't push me into the waves. They are too cowardly for that. Instead, they wait to pass an island upon which they can dump their unwanted cargo. The first one we pass is small, with no signs of habitation. They drag me into a rowboat. The first thing I notice is the odd stick that points straight up from its center. Then I realize that there is a body filling the rowboat. My brother, still totally asleep. If they threw him overboard, he wouldn't notice drowning. The prince pushes me into the boat. As his compatriots row us to the island, he tells me his great revenge for his people. He plans to abandon me here with the Minotaur. The Minotaur's last meal will not be one of his fellow countrymen. It will be me. Then my brother will be alone on the shore, starving to death or dying from his wounds. They dump us on the beach. I watch the ship sail away. I am too lightheaded to stand, so instead I sit beside my brother under the baking sun. I reach out, trembling, and hold his hand while I still can. Thanks to my efforts, He is not so gaunt as my father planned him to be. I hope he has enough strength in him to survive the dirty stick, which I am too terrified to remove from his side for fear of hurting him or waking him. His chest rises and falls at a steady rhythm. I have nothing to offer him. I wasn't sure the prince would honor the promise to marry me, but I had thought he would at least take us to his kingdom. Perhaps he couldn't be seen to entertain a blood traitor like myself. I apologize to my brother's unhearing ears, but it is only out of courtesy. Just like when we were children, I believe in my heart of hearts that I have done what's best for him, that I have shoved him in the right direction. If we are to die on this island, it might not be so bad as what would have awaited us at home. At least we are together, outside of my father's sphere of influence. I lie down just for a moment, giving in to exhaustion. It seems like only a second later that I wake to the chime of bells and the snarls of wildcats. The first thing I do is scan for my brother. He's gone. All that remains is an indentation in the sand. A great procession swirls over the island I had thought deserted, so opulent and savage I fear delirium has overtaken me. Proceeding through the undergrowth and emerging on the beach come dancing satyrs, men and women in ragged clothes, forage-laden carts drawn by cheetahs, and lumbering giants who drag jars of wine the size of men behind them. Sharp-eyed maenads follow not far behind. They are mad women who follow the god of wine and tear men to shreds with their bare hands in the midst of their frenzies. Travelling with them, his injuries tended to, is my brother, alive. His face and chest are soaked in someone else's blood, but the maenads pull him into their mad dance as if it is only confetti. Did they lure him away when I was sleeping? Why were they polite enough to do it before he slaughtered me? At the head of the procession, a youth leaps off a cart towards me. Bacchus, the god of wine himself, glowing with innate power. The whole procession slows behind him, without any word of command. He appraises my lost arm. For a princess, I wouldn't look out of place in his procession.
I've never seen such a call for courage,
He remarks, eyes alight. His sweet, low voice comes not only from his body, but from the air, the sea, the sky, inside my own mind. I couldn't outrun it if I tried. My mangled appearance disgusted the prince to his core. What will a god make of it? I don't know how to speak to a god. I attempt to bow and totter to the left. I'm sorry to displease you.
Displease me? You please me very much. What a mess!
And he smiles with the full confidence of an immortal. The wild party spreads over the beach. No one in the party spares my injury a second glance. They can't be of sound mind. My brother was the wildest creature on our island, but amongst the creatures that follow Bacchus, he becomes difficult to distinguish. I try to keep track of him, wincing whenever he jumps, flinching back whenever anyone comes close to him.
Would you care for some wine?
He offers. I accept. At the first sip, the pain in my arm dulls. Bacchus does a fine job of playing host, as if I were a guest in his house or palace, even when none of those structures exist on this island. It's all make-believe, a laughable kindness for a god to perform for a mere stranded mortal. His followers build up a great fire for us to warm ourselves with. I pay for his hospitality with my story. With enough of the wine, straight from Bacchus's own cup, my secrets spill out across the following hours, and every time my throat catches, he asks more questions, teasing out every blood-smeared detail. Nothing disgusts him. Even when I tell him of how I fed my brother his last meal in the Labyrinth, he doesn't recoil. So what do you think? I ask him, at the end of it all. Will your kind forgive me for betraying my family? He leans forward very seriously, but that glimmer of amusement never leaves his face.
My kind? My kind are wild animals and wild people. There is no asking for permission to survive. But if you refer to my divine brethren, well, perhaps they would reserve judgment. You resemble them more than most.
I can't help but laugh, my throat stripped raw. How do I resemble a god?
You have been eaten by your own family and survived. You were transformed, which is common enough, but then you return to human form. And that is not the way that mortal stories go. To turn and then turn back is divine.
I cling to every word.
Have I offended you?
He asks, as if he were a polite courtier. No, you please me very much. The raucous party fades into the sound of the rushing waves. His eyes glimmer, and I have the sense of it then, that this body before me is only a veil worn by some being far too powerful for me to fathom its true form, no more than I could swallow the ocean, but I can accept the cup he offers. My brother never looks my way, but he comes close, though his face is turned away. Something about it calms me. I stand up, and with my remaining hand, I shove the center of his back, so that he stumbles back into the ravening crowd. He goes where I direct him. A lump forms in my throat. Bacchus follows my gaze. I clear my throat. What are your plans for him, Your Grace? His brow quirks.
Plans?
What will you do with him?
Should I do anything? He seems at ease as he is.
My face crumples with relief, and I look away until I can trust myself to speak again. He waits until I've regained my composure to speak.
I think you will both survive this. The gods let your father wash away the golden touch. His blood is in your veins. Perhaps you inherited his lucky streak.
You're a god, I dare him. Vow it. Swear it to me. The corner of his mouth tugs up. He takes a little breath, steadying himself. When he makes the declaration, the encampment falls utterly silent around us.
You will live a long life. I swear it.
We drink from the cup. The camp erupts back into chaos. My sense of victory battles with the weight of what I will have to carry with me everywhere I go for the rest of my long life. What my family has done to me, and what I have done to my family. But my brother is with me. My brother is free. The party swallows my outpouring of sorrow and joy. Tears and fire and music blur into an edgeless cacophony. I wake in the pink light of dawn, born anew. My injury is tender, but the healing has progressed far beyond what should be possible. My brother has been accepted amongst the most bloodthirsty ranks of Bacchus's followers, the satyrs and maenads and giants. The god of wine offers me his hand, and we leave the island.
We hope you have enjoyed this unabridged production of If He Will Not Eat by Kit Mazarin, performed by Kit Mazarin and Jan Gedroich. Text copyright 2025 by Kit Mazarin. Production copyright 2025 by Kit Mazarin. All rights reserved. Thank you for listening.